G'day Year 11 Business Studies. Here we are with Chunk 4, which is the Business Growth and Decline. I'd argue that this is maybe one of the most enjoyable and probably the easiest of the 4 chunks that we do. It's less detail, less acronyms and the like, and we're going to go through this PowerPoint step by step to give you a deeper understanding, and I'm going to expect that you guys are going to be doing the work in your own time and in class time and getting this done. Next week, once I'm back from sipping a Mai Tai in Thailand, I will be going through the revision for you before the upcoming examination. If this is the first time using the flip learning module of this behaviour, so there might be a few teething issues as we go, but hopefully you can be able to hear my voice as we go through this and work through it over the microphone. Business growth and decline, chunk 4. Let's get stuck in. So what we first have is that there's 4 stages in the business life cycle. All right, these are the syllabus dot points. So you've got stages of the business life cycle being establishment, growth, maturity, and post-maturity. You then have responding to challenges at each stage of the business life cycle, factors that can contribute to a business decline, and then the last being the death of a company or a business, which is voluntary and involuntary cessation, or what's commonly referred to as liquidation. We follow the 1, 2, 3, 4 step of establishment, growth, maturity, post-maturity, but I incorporate the next 2 syllabus dot points into those 4 stages of the business life cycle, and then we will look at the last one, being this one down here, in isolation. Okay, so these 2 are going to be in these 4 in our activities, and this one we do, being voluntary and involuntary cessation, in liquidation. All right, so let's go to the first one, being our good friend, if I can click through to the next one, being what are some of the key issues faced in the business life cycle. Okay, at any stage in the business life cycle, all right, you'll commonly fall to these 2, you get out of jail free cards. If you're in an exam, you don't know what to write, if you've got cash flow or positive cash flow or managing growth and expansion, generally you're going to be doing okay. All right, managing growth and expansion comes under these 4 subcategories, and we talk about those in a little bit more depth, so I don't want to go through them now. But there's obviously this notion of cash flow and positive cash flow. Now, at this point, I'll probably be asking Mike Rosowski, Monsters Inc. at the back of the room, to say, right, tell me what cash flow or positive cash flow is. Cash flow, if you've done Year 10 Commerce, you're probably at a little bit of an advantage here over your cohort or your partners. Essentially, cash flow is the flow of money in and out of a business. If you have positive cash flow, you receive the money before you make expenses in your business. A real estate agent is a prime example of someone who has to do a lot of work before the property is sold and they make their money. So they have a negative cash flow. Whereas a positive cash flow, for example, sure, your parents pay their school fees at the start of term for the term ahead. So the school is in a positive cash flow. They receive their money before offering their product. Okay? Now, gentlemen, the stage of the business life cycle, this table here, or this diagram, draw it into your notes. It is the most important visualization of the 4 stages of the business life cycle, and shows the first thing being only one of these stages has a 3-way prong, being renewal, steady state, and decline. We come to that later. But this visualization, which says sales on the side and the life of the business down the bottom on the bottom axis, okay, down along here on the bottom axis, and the sales on the left axis. It shows that the business will grow over a period of time and their sales generally increase before plateauing around the maturity stage. Okay? Now, a business can remain in a steady state for quite some time, or decline, or renew their business and change their business model. But again, we'll get to that later. Let's look at the stages of the business life cycle with the establishment. We'll get to there though. Each stage, as I said, presents new challenges, different opportunities, changes to the nature of operations. So in other words, no business when it grew at the maturity or the post-maturity stage is the same business. You could argue that for Apple, started in the Steve Jobs garage as a growth, and then obviously when the maturity stage, it's a higher business that's in multiple, multinational business in multiple locations. You can say it the same for BHP. BHP actually started as a business in remote New South Wales, near the New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, South Australian border, right there on the border of all those 3 states. Now look at it. It's arguably the world's largest mining company in the world. Now you can't say that they haven't had challenges and opportunities and different nature to their operations as they've grown. Okay? Now, businesses, owners, if they're successful, need to adapt to these changes as they grow. So this bit in red is your important bit for your notes. Okay? Now, as soon as we say that and saying that you need to assess where you are and then change your business to develop strategies to deal with them, which is what we're about to go through, it's important to tell you that there is no set timeline. For example, a business can be 10 years old but still be in the growth. A business can be 30 years old and in the establishment phase. Or however highly unlikely it is, it's more likely to be in the maturity or the post-maturity. But there is possibilities for businesses to remain in these states and not move for a long period of time. For all of you that are visual learners, you might want to stick this in. We're about to go through this in more depth. These are the challenges faced. I'm about to ask you to do activity. But if you're very much a visual person, this is a good image to stick in your notes and have at the start. We'll break these down in a little bit more depth. But for you, for the visual learners, copy-paste, stick it in your notes. Now, a little activity for you to do at this point. In the old textbook, it's page 87. In the new textbook, it's 89. There is a case study on the life of Coles, a constantly renewed business. It's a prime example of a business that started in the establishment phase significantly different to how it ended up. There's also arguments for the one on Foxtel, which is on page 98, if you're inclined to do more work. But what I'd like you to do now is stop the video, read the life of Coles on page 87 or 89, depending on what textbook you have, and answer questions 1, 2, 3, 4, all the little sub ones being A, A1, A2, and B, and 6 and 7. Okay? So stop it now and get stuck into that. Now, we start with cash flow at the establishment phase. Now, the main concern at the establishment phase, and this is, I guess, its most clear point, is to generate enough income or cash flow, the money into the business, to generate enough money to pay for your expenses. Often when you establish a business, you've made a lot of outlay, you've bought the equipment, bought the stock, maybe paid for a shop fit out or anything. You're looking to produce income straight away to pay back those issues. So the most important response to the challenge here is this notion of you need to have adequate planning to get it done. Okay? Now, see these tables here? These are all the main challenges of the business, okay, or at the establishment phase, okay? So if you turn to page 90 of your new textbook, or table 4.1, you have here the most important points to go into your notes. I want you, in your notes, to have the main challenges here on your list and the strategies used to manage or overcome them. For example, sales begin slowly and can be erratic. When you establish a business, not a lot of people know who you are. Not a lot of people may know your brand name or how good your product is. So how are you going to overcome that? All right? You don't also have a lot of money for marketing. So how are you going to encourage your sales of business to get out there? Are you going to have customer loyalty programs? Okay? Are you going to do word of mouth? Are you going to use free marketing avenues like social media? Okay. Now, some of the others there being establishing customers, high fixed costs. All right. For example, you need to pay for a restaurant fit out or a new shop fit out. You need to buy all the raw materials, pay for insurance up front. How are you going to get around that? Can you take out a loan? Can you enter payment plans? These are some of the strategies that I want you to look through on page 90 or 91 and table 4.1 in understanding how you're going to overcome some of these issues. Because it's important for you to know, as part of the syllabus, the challenges at each stage in the business life cycle being establishment and the strategies that a business can implement to overcome. So this table completed needs to go into your notes, referring to table 4.1. Now, let's move on to growth. Growth. It's a good stage, actually. A lot of businesses like the growth phase, but like the common saying, or a colloquial thing, it's called growing pains. Growing is generally a good stage for the business. However, there can be growing issues and pains. But during the growth stage of the business life cycle, you're getting all these, really attractive options into being a business. Your sales increase, your cash flow becomes more regularly. For example, your business is clearing around about 10K in income per month. Some months you go up to 12, 15, 20, but you're generally always more than 10. You start creating new products, you start getting new ideas. Think about Budgie Smuggler. They had their 5 basic pairs of costumes, and then all of a sudden, as they started to get a bit more, I guess, lucrative and grow, they started to design new products and try and widen their product suite. Microsoft also did this, Apple also did this. Didn't work as well for them. Emphasis on marketing. So, for example, you start marketing your products in a variety of areas. You're starting to get better financial management. That's both external and internal. For example, internally, you might be hiring a CFO, hiring an accounts manager, hiring someone from payroll. Externally, you might start using a professional accountant rather than a friend down the road to get your books done. You start doing, for example, a jack of all trades in your management. For example, my friend Ted, he's going to be managing these 3 things. Now, all of a sudden, you start employing someone to head up operations, someone to head up HR, someone to head up finance, and you control sales and marketing. That might be an example. The last being the business starts getting a bit of a good reputation in the community. Now, gentlemen, once again, we have this table here. If you return to page 93 or around about there in the old book, you'll see table 4.2. Once again, we need to know what these main challenges are and the strategy and how we overcome them. So if I was in class standing there at the moment, I'd be asking you to complete this table. For example, you might have financial management become more sophisticated. Well, how do you do that? Do you start using MYOB or Xero? Cashflow can become hard to track. Accounting systems and software or a debtor-creditor system may help you to do that, or hiring someone in the financial management of accounts. You might have more business elements to manage, so you hire specialized people to do that. For example, a new head of marketing. All right, you increase job tasks, you employ more people, you experience in new business areas. So obviously you're inexperienced because you're growing your business. You need to then hire the appropriate people to do so. Okay. Now, I'd like you, as I said, to get this table complete into your notes. Now, during the growth phase, there are some alternatives to the businesses that they can use to expand rapidly. All right. For example, you can continue to grow slowly and market your product and grow by organic growth. In other words, more people being attracted to your product. Or you can make it the quick method, being merger and acquisitions, or as we like to call it when I worked in corporate banking, murder and acquisition. Because in my opinion, although this is just mine, there's always a winner and a loser whenever there's a merger or an acquisition. Merger, you can have hostile takeovers where one company buys out the other share, or acquisition where 2 companies decide to enter their businesses in together in a willing sort of controlling interest between 2 parties. In that, there's always a winner and a loser. Now, a merger is where, as I said, they combine their resources. Merger, there's always a winner and a loser, I'd argue, but they're 2 businesses that come together. Where an acquisition, there's definitely a clear winner in the sense that they acquire the new business and do away with their current management structure. That is the case for TomWaterhouse.com. It was one of the biggest and fastest growing online betting apps. He's a sure old boy, Mr. Waterhouse. He was bought out by William Hill. He sold his gambling app and all his gambling clients to William Hill. It was an acquisition or takeover. It was not a merger. They did not merge their business. TomWaterhouse.com, the online betting app, does not exist anymore. It is now William Hill, or fallen under William Hill. Now, this will take a little bit of time in terms of our growth, in terms of the different types of mergers and acquisitions. At the end of it, I'd really like you to get this diagram down into your notes, because we have Benny's Bakery, all right? Our good friend Ben Broadley, I believe you're in 5-1, maybe 6-1, sorry, I lie. This is him. This is his bakery, right? We have what's called vertical integration. There is backwards vertical integration. This is the first part. We then will look at forward vertical integration. If Benny's Bakery is looking to do some form of merger and acquisition, there is the notion of vertical integration, where Benny, who runs a bakery and needs wheat every day to make the bread in his bakery, would go buy Willie's wheat farm. By doing that, he's controlling his supply chain, which means that Willie can't sell the wheat to the other competing bakeries in the market. So it means that he has exclusive rights and control over his supply, which means he can control the quality and quantity and how regularly it comes to his business. That is backwards vertical integration. And gentlemen, you need to know these and know them well. You also have what's called forward vertical integration. Forward vertical integration would mean our friend Ben Broadley would go buy Silvio's super